Welcome to the Radical Libertarian, where we embark on a relentless quest for liberty, threading through contemporary events with a radical libertarian lens. I'm your host, Jason Feimster, and in each episode, we dissect recent headlines, offering a distinctive outlook to challenge conventional ideologies and ignite stimulating dialogues. Our journey today delves into the welfare state, a libertarian analysis. This episode will meticulously explore the welfare state, not just as a political concept, but as a philosophical dilemma that intersects with the core principles of libertarianism. We aim to unravel the intricate layers of this topic, examining its economic, social, and moral implications through a libertarian lens. So, whether you're a steadfast libertarian, a curious observer, or somewhere in between, this episode promises to offer fresh insights and provoke thought. Here at the Radical Libertarian, our endeavor is straightforward yet profound to propagate the essence of liberty, unveiling truths often overshadowed by mainstream narratives. We're not just discussing ideas, we're igniting a movement towards a freer world. So if you're ready to challenge the status quo and explore the depths of libertarian thought, you're in the right place. In today's episode, we'll dissect the welfare state, a concept that has been both praised and criticized across the political spectrum. We'll dive into its origins, its impact on society and the economy, and, most importantly, how it aligns or conflicts with libertarian principles. Our analysis will be rooted in concrete examples and real world scenarios, avoiding hypotheticals to provide a clear, fact based perspective. Remember, this isn't just a one way conversation. I encourage you to engage, question, and challenge the ideas presented. You visit our website, our podcast on Spotify, or our YouTube playlist, and join the discussion to access more content. So sit back or lean in as we embark on this intellectual journey. Welcome to the welfare state, a libertarian analysis. As we embark on this journey through the intricate world of the welfare state, it's essential to establish a foundational understanding of what the welfare state actually is. The term welfare state can conjure various images, from social safety nets to government overreach, depending on who you ask. At its core, the welfare state represents a government's effort to provide for the welfare or the well being of its citizens, typically through various social security programs, healthcare, education, and housing assistance. The origins of the modern welfare state can be traced back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. One notable example is the social legislation in Germany under Otto von Bismarck in the 1880s, which introduced sickness and accident insurance, followed by old age pensions. These initiatives were revolutionary at the time and laid the groundwork for what we now recognize as the welfare state. But welfare systems aren't monolithic. They vary greatly from country to country, shaped by historical, cultural, and economic factors. For instance, the Scandinavian model, often cited as the epitome of welfare states, is characterized by comprehensive social assistance, funded by high taxes. In contrast, the United States has a more mixed approach, combining government programs with private sector involvement, particularly in healthcare and pensions. Funding for these welfare programs generally comes from the public through taxation. This is where much of the contention arises, as it poses fundamental questions about the role of government, the responsibilities of the individual versus the collective, and the implications of redistributing wealth. In analyzing the welfare state, it's crucial to recognize its multifaceted nature. It's not just about providing financial assistance to the unemployed or healthcare to the sick. It's about a broader role of government in shaping the economic and social landscape of a nation. It's about balancing the needs of the present with the prospect of the future. And most importantly, for our discussion, it's about understanding how these initiatives align or conflict with the libertarian philosophy of minimal government intervention and maximum personal freedom. The welfare state, in its various forms, has been both lauded for providing a safety net for the most vulnerable and criticized for creating dependency, stifling individual initiative, and burdening economies. As we delve deeper into this topic, we will explore these contrasting viewpoints, armed with facts and real world examples, to provide a comprehensive libertarian analysis of the welfare state. In our next segment, we'll dive into the core libertarian principles and scrutinize how they intersect with the concept of the welfare state. We'll discuss the philosophical underpinnings of libertarianism and how they inform the libertarian critique of welfare policies. Now, let's pivot our discussion to the heart of libertarian philosophy and how it views the welfare state. Libertarianism, in its essence, champions individual liberty, limited government, and free market capitalism. It's a philosophy that places a high value on personal freedom and autonomy, advocating for minimal government intervention in the lives of individuals. At the core of libertarian thought is the principle of non aggression. This principle asserts that individuals should be free to act as they wish, so long as their actions do not harm others. This extends to economic activities, where libertarians advocate for voluntary exchanges and oppose coercive actions, such as taxation, for redistributive purposes. When it comes to the welfare state, libertarians often express concern that such systems inherently violate the non aggression principle. The funding of welfare programs through taxation is seen as a form of coercion, where the government forcibly takes from some to give to others. This, in the libertarian view, is not only a violation of individual property rights, but also a moral issue, as it involves taking from individuals without their explicit consent. Moreover, libertarians argued that welfare states, by their very nature, create dependency and diminish the incentive for personal responsibility and self reliance. They contend that when the government steps in to provide for individuals' needs, it reduces the impetus for individuals to seek employment, manage their finances responsibly, and make prudent life choices. This dependency culture, libertarians argue, not only undermines the individual's capacity for self determination, but also places an unsustainable burden on the economy. Another key aspect of libertarian criticism of the welfare state pertains to its efficiency and effectiveness. Libertarians often point to the bureaucratic nature of government programs, arguing that they are inherently less efficient than private sector alternatives. They suggest that market based solutions to social problems, such as private charity and community based initiatives, are more effective and responsive to individual needs. The Libertarian Party's platform reflects these principles. It advocates for a society where individuals are free to pursue their own lives and make their own choices, as long as they do not infringe on the equal rights of others. The platform is critical of government welfare programs and proposes that people in need should be assisted by voluntary means, such as private charity and community support, rather than through coercive government programs. In our next segment, we'll delve deeper into the economic implications of the welfare state. We'll examine how welfare policies impact taxpayers, the economy, and the long term sustainability of these programs, always keeping our libertarian lens in focus. In this segment, we turn our attention to the economic implications of the welfare state, a topic of significant importance in libertarian discourse. The economic perspective is crucial because it affects not just those who receive welfare benefits, but every taxpayer and, more broadly, the entire economic system of a nation. Taxpayer impact and economic burden. The welfare state is primarily funded through taxation. Libertarians argue that this represents a significant burden on taxpayers, particularly those who are economically active. High levels of taxation to fund welfare programs can lead to reduced incentives for work and entrepreneurship. This is because as people's income is increasingly taxed, the reward for working harder or investing in business ventures diminishes. This situation can lead to a decrease in economic productivity and innovation, which are the engines of economic growth. dependency culture, and its consequences. One of the most frequently discussed aspects of the welfare state in libertarian circles is the creation of a dependency culture. Libertarians assert that when people rely on government assistance for their livelihood, it can diminish their motivation to seek employment or improve their skills. This dependency not only affects the individuals and their families, but also has a broader societal implications. It can lead to a cycle where generations of individuals become reliant on the state, reducing the overall workforce productivity and increasing the burden on those who are working. Long term sustainability. The long term sustainability of welfare programs is another area of concern. As populations age and birth rates decline in many developed countries, the ratio of working individuals to those dependent on welfare, including retirees, is decreasing. This demographic shift poses a significant challenge to the sustainability of welfare states. Libertarians often point to this as evidence that welfare systems, as currently structured, may not be financially viable in the long run. They argue that a system that places an ever increasing burden on a shrinking workforce is not sustainable. Economic freedom and prosperity. Libertarians champion economic freedom, arguing that it leads to greater prosperity. They contend that a smaller welfare state and lower taxes would lead to more economic freedom, which in turn would stimulate economic growth. This growth could then lead to more employment opportunities, higher wages, and ultimately a more effective way of reducing poverty than redistributive welfare policies. In our next segment, we will explore the social and moral considerations surrounding the welfare state from a libertarian perspective. We'll delve into the balance between social responsibility and individual liberty, and the moral argument against forced redistribution of wealth. Stay tuned as we continue to dissect the multifaceted nature of the welfare state through the lens of libertarianism. In this part of our discussion, we delve into the social and moral dimensions of the welfare state, exploring how these aspects intersect with libertarian values. The welfare state is not just an economic system, it embodies a set of social and moral values that profoundly impact the fabric of society. Social responsibility versus individual liberty. One of the central debates surrounding the welfare state is the tension between social responsibility and individual liberty. Libertarians uphold the sanctity of individual liberty, arguing that each person should have the freedom to choose how they live, work, and interact with others. They contend that the welfare state, by imposing mandatory taxation to support collective social programs, infringes upon individual freedom. The libertarian perspective posits that social responsibility should be a matter of personal choice, not government mandate. In a libertarian society, helping others is seen as a virtue, but it should be exercised voluntarily through charitable actions and private organizations, not coerced through government policies. This approach, libertarians argue, preserves individual liberty while still fostering a sense of community and mutual support. The moral argument against forced redistribution. The moral argument against the welfare state in libertarian thought is rooted in the concept of property rights. Libertarians view forced redistribution of wealth through taxation as a violation of property rights. They argue that individuals have the right to the fruits of their labor, and that taking someone's earnings without their consent is morally equivalent to theft, even if done by the government and even if it's for a socially beneficial purpose. This perspective challenges the moral justification of the welfare state, which is often seen as a means to achieve greater equality and social justice. Libertarians argue that true justice is respecting each other person's right to their property and their freedom to make their own choices. Charity and voluntary aid. A key aspect of libertarian approach to social welfare is the emphasis on charity and voluntary aid. Libertarians believe that voluntary actions are more ethical and effective than government imposed solutions. They argue that when people choose to help others out of compassion rather than being compelled, It leads to more meaningful social support and fosters a culture of genuine care and community. Libertarians also point to the efficiency and adaptability of private charities and local organizations in addressing social needs. They argue that these entities are closer to the problems and therefore better equipped to offer targeted, effective assistance. In the next segment, we will explore specific case studies and real world examples of welfare programs and their outcomes. This will include a comparative analysis of different countries' approaches to welfare and a look at how minimal welfare models have succeeded in various contexts. In this segment, we turn our attention to concrete case studies and real world examples to understand the impact of welfare programs. By examining specific instances, we can gain a clearer picture of how welfare policies play out in practice and what their implications are, particularly through a libertarian lens. The Scandinavian model, a comprehensive welfare state. Often cited in discussions about welfare states, the Scandinavian countries, such as Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, offer a comprehensive range of social welfare programs, including healthcare, education, and unemployment benefits. Funded by high levels of taxation, these countries are frequently held up as successful examples of the welfare state. However, from a libertarian viewpoint, this model raises concerns about the high tax burden and the potential impacts on individual liberty and economic freedom. While these countries rank high in happiness and quality of life, libertarians argue that the high taxes required to sustain such models can limit individual financial freedom and entrepreneurship. The United States, a mixed welfare model. The United States presents a different approach, with a more mixed welfare model that combines government programs with private sector involvement. Programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are significant, but there's also a substantial role for private insurance and charity. Libertarians often point to the inefficiencies and high costs associated with government run programs in the United States. They argue that more market based solutions and less government intervention could lead to better outcomes in terms of cost, quality, and innovation in service delivery. Success stories of minimal welfare models. There are also examples of countries with minimal welfare states that have experienced economic success. For instance, Singapore and Hong Kong relatively limited welfare systems compared to Western European countries, yet they boast high levels of economic growth and prosperity. Libertarians highlight these cases as evidence that less government intervention in social welfare can coincide with thriving economies and high standards of living. These examples illustrate the complex nature of welfare systems and their varied impact on different societies. They provide valuable insights into the debate over the role of government in providing social welfare and the balance between collective support and individual responsibility. In our next and final segment, we will discuss libertarian alternatives to the welfare state. We'll explore proposed solutions for addressing social norms within a framework that respects individual liberty and minimal government intervention. As we approach the conclusion of our exploration into the welfare state from a libertarian perspective, it's essential to discuss potential alternatives that align with libertarian principles. Libertarians advocate for solutions that emphasize individual liberty, personal responsibility, and minimal government intervention. Promoting free markets and economic freedom. A fundamental aspect of the libertarian alternative to the welfare state is the promotion of free markets and economic freedom. Libertarians argue that a free market economy, unencumbered by excessive government regulation and intervention, is the most effective mechanism for creating wealth and reducing poverty. In a free market, individuals and businesses are encouraged to innovate, compete, and contribute to economic growth, which can lead to more job opportunities and higher standards of living. Voluntary charity and community support. Instead of government run welfare programs, Libertarians advocate for voluntary charity and community support systems. This approach is based on the belief that individuals and private organizations are better suited to address social needs and can do more effectively and compassionately than bureaucratic government programs. Charitable organizations, faith based groups, and community initiatives are seen as more adaptable and responsive to the specific needs of individuals and communities, encouraging personal responsibility and self reliance. Libertarian solutions also emphasize the importance of personal responsibility and self reliance. This includes encouraging individuals to plan for their own futures through savings, investment, and private insurance. The idea is to create a culture where individuals take charge of their own lives and make decisions that are best for them and their families, rather than relying on government assistance. Reforming existing welfare programs. While advocating for a minimal role of government in social welfare, libertarians also recognize the need for practical, incremental reforms to existing welfare systems. This could include measures like means testing for government benefits, simplifying and reducing bureaucracy in welfare programs, and introducing work requirements where appropriate. As we draw this episode to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on the journey we've embarked upon today. The welfare state, libertarian analysis, has not just been an exploration of policies and principles, it has been a deep dive into the philosophical underpinnings of how we, as a society, approach the balance between collective welfare and individual liberty. We began by understanding the welfare state, its origins, and its various forms across the globe. We saw how different countries implement these systems, each shaped by its unique historical and cultural context. This helped us appreciate the complexity and the diversity of approaches to social welfare. We then delved into the core of libertarian philosophy, exploring how its principles of non aggression, property rights, and individual autonomy stand in contrast to the fundamental aspects of the welfare state. This segment was crucial in laying the groundwork for our analysis, as it highlighted the ideological rift between libertarian thought and the concept of state driven welfare. The economic implications of the welfare state were next in our discussion. Here, we examine the impact on taxpayers, the dangers of a dependency culture, and the long term sustainability of these systems. We explored the argument that economic freedom fostered by minimal state intervention could be a more effective path to prosperity and social welfare. Our journey also took us through the moral landscape that underlies the welfare state. We grappled with the delicate balance between social responsibility and individual freedom, and the moral implications of redistribution. This emphasis on voluntary charity and community support as alternatives to state run welfare systems provided a glimpse into how a libertarian society might address social needs. Real world examples and case studies brought practical insights into our discussion. We looked at the Scandinavian model, the mixed approach of the United States, and the minimal welfare models of Singapore and Hong Kong. These examples served as a canvas to understand the diverse outcomes and challenges of different welfare systems. Finally, we explored libertarian alternatives to the welfare state. This wasn't just about critiquing existing systems, but about offering constructive, liberty oriented solutions. We discussed the role of free markets, the importance of voluntary charity, the ethos of personal responsibility, and pragmatic reforms to current programs. As we conclude, it's clear that the discussion around the welfare state and libertarianism is not just an academic exercise. It touches on the very core of how we view society, the role of government, and the rights and responsibilities of individuals. It's a conversation that has profound implications for our present and for our future. I invite you to continue this conversation. Visit our blog and join our discussions on YouTube and Spotify, and engage with us on social media. Your thoughts, critiques, and insights are what make this journey towards understanding and advocating for liberty so enriching. Thank you for joining me, Jason Feimster, on the Radical Libertarian. This is not just a podcast, it's a movement toward a freer, more responsible, and more prosperous society. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue to challenge, explore, and advocate for the principles of liberty. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep championing the cause of freedom.